John had always thought that humanity was small, fragile, and insignificant in the vast universe. Yet nothing had prepared him for this moment. He stood at the entrance of a hall unlike anything he had ever imagined. The walls seemed alive, shimmering in colors that didn't exist in any human rainbow. The air vibrated with an energy he could feel in his chest, a hum that seemed to whisper secrets of an entire galaxy. And in that hall there were creatures, so many creatures, that his mind struggled to comprehend them all. Some had scales that glimmered like molten gold under sunlight. Others had wings folded neatly on their backs, each feather or membrane glowing faintly in rhythm with their heartbeat. Some creatures had multiple eyes. Others had limbs in shapes John couldn't name, and a few seemed almost like liquid, shifting and flowing as they moved. The sheer diversity was overwhelming. Every instinct in him screamed to run, to hide, to disappear, but something kept him rooted to the spot. At the far end of the hall sat the Queen. She was unlike anything John had ever seen. She radiated a presence that was both terrifying and magnetic. Her skin shimmered like polished obsidian, etched with patterns that seemed to move and shift like living tattoos. Her eyes, enormous and deep, held the weight of centuries. But when her gaze met his, something strange happened. It felt personal. He felt as though she could see every thought, every fear, every secret corner of his mind. He tried to steady his breathing, tried to tell himself he was here as an ambassador, as a representative of humanity. But words failed him. His hands, trembling, hung loosely at his sides. He could hear the whispers of those around him, the clicks, the hisses, the soft vibrations of curiosity and suspicion. But he couldn't make sense of the sounds. Then, without warning, the hall went completely silent. Every single creature froze mid-motion. Even the faint hum in the walls seemed to pause. John's heart raced as he realized all eyes, all senses were on him. And in that moment the Queen rose from her throne. She moved with a grace that seemed impossible for a being of her size. Every step she took sent a ripple through the hall, a subtle vibration that John felt in his bones. And then she spoke. Her voice was a blend of music and thunder, soft yet commanding, filling every corner of the hall. "This is him," she said. Her gaze didn't waver. "He is mine." John froze. His mind scrambled for an explanation. What did she mean? Was this some ceremony, some test? He wanted to say something, anything, but no words came out. All he could do was stare, feeling a heat rush to his face. He had never been the center of attention like this. Not in school, not at work, not even in his own home. And now, in front of an entire alien council, he was exposed in a way he had never imagined. Whispers began, soft at first, then louder. "A human?" one hissed. "Her husband?" Another clicked. John could feel the judgment, the disbelief, the unspoken questions. What made him worthy? How could he, a mere human, stand beside a queen who commanded worlds? But then the Queen stepped closer, her hand extending toward him. Her touch was gentle but unyielding, grounding him in a way he didn't understand. She didn't need words. Her presence alone told him that whatever fear, doubt, or shame he felt didn't matter. In her eyes he was enough. For the first time since arriving, John took a deep breath. His legs stopped shaking. His heart still raced, but it no longer felt like it would betray him. He realized, slowly and almost painfully, that he was standing on the edge of something extraordinary, something life-changing, something that could not be measured by human logic or reason. The hall was silent, the creatures watching, waiting, questioning, and John, a simple human who had never imagined such a life, felt the stirrings of courage he didn't know he had. This was the moment everything would change. And somehow he knew he wouldn't be the same again. The silence in the hall was deafening. Every creature, from the smallest crawling thing to the massive beings with wings and tentacles, had stopped moving. Their eyes, all of them, were fixed on John. He felt as though the weight of the entire universe rested on his shoulders. Every heartbeat, every breath, every trembling inch of his body seemed magnified under their gaze. The queen's hand was still outstretched, waiting. Slowly, she guided him forward. Each step he took felt like walking across fragile ice, the hall vibrating with anticipation. His mind raced. This has to be a mistake. She can't mean me. I'm just a human. I'm nothing compared to her. But something deep inside, a quiet, stubborn spark, refused to let fear win. He followed her lead because somehow in that moment, he trusted her completely. When they reached the center of the hall, the queen lifted her head, her voice filling the space once more. "Everyone," she said, "this is my husband." The words hung in the air like a shock wave. The hall fell utterly silent again. Some creatures blinked, others froze in mid-gesture. A low murmur began, almost involuntarily spreading like wildfire. "A human? Her husband?" hissed one. Another clicked its many eyes rapidly as though trying to process a puzzle too complicated to solve. A few covered their mouths, unable to hide their shock. John's throat felt dry. He wanted to speak, to explain, to tell them it was impossible, but nothing came out. His mind screamed, "I'm not ready. I'm not worthy. I'm just a human." Yet the queen's hand remained firm in his, and for the first time he felt something he hadn't expected. Courage. Not the loud, heroic kind he had read about in books, but a quiet, resolute courage. The kind that roots itself in love and trust. A particularly large creature stepped forward, its voice deep and grating. "You claim a human as your equal?" it demanded, eyes narrowing. "Do you not see his frailty? His weakness?" John's stomach twisted, and for a moment doubt threatened to crush him. He glanced at the queen, and she gave him a small, encouraging nod. That single gesture, simple yet full of meaning, steadied him. He took a deep breath, trying to remember the simplest truth he knew. Love doesn't measure worth by size, strength, or power. "I am human," he said, voice trembling at first, then stronger with every word. "I am not powerful. I am not perfect. But I love her, and I will stand by her, protect her, and support her in every way I can." The hall went silent again. But this silence was different. He could feel the tension, the disbelief, and also the weight of consideration. For a long moment no one moved, no one spoke. Then slowly some creatures shifted their eyes. A few tilted their heads as though testing the truth in his words. The murmurs faded, replaced by a heavy, thoughtful quiet. The queen smiled, and it was as if the air itself softened around him. "Love," she said, her voice gentle, "is not measured by power. It is measured by heart, by courage, by willingness to stand even when the world doubts you. And he has all of these things." John's chest swelled, a strange mix of pride, fear, and overwhelming emotion. For the first time he felt seen, not as a human, not as fragile, not as weak, but as someone capable of greatness in a way the creatures of this hall could understand. Not through strength, but through loyalty, heart, and love. Some creatures stepped back, some exchanged looks of surprise, and a few even bowed slightly. The hall still buzzed with tension, but the hostility, the mockery had lessened. And as John looked into the queen's eyes, he realized that this moment, terrifying, humiliating, and awe-inspiring all at once, was the beginning of something far bigger than himself. For the first time, he understood. Being chosen wasn't about being the strongest or the smartest. It was about being willing to stand, to face fear, to love without limits. And in that hall, surrounded by beings who had never considered a human as anything but weak, John felt the stirrings of something impossible yet undeniable. Hope. The queen squeezed his hand gently. "They will come to understand," she whispered. "And if they don't, I will stand with you anyway." John nodded, and in that instant he realized he was no longer just a visitor. He was a husband, and that was both terrifying and more powerful than anything he had ever imagined. The day after the announcement, John found himself wandering through the palace corridors, still struggling to understand what had just happened. Every corner of the alien palace was unlike anything he had ever seen. The walls pulsed softly, almost as if breathing. Light didn't come from bulbs or candles. It shimmered from the very structure itself, shifting in colors that made his human eyes ache to comprehend. He could hear whispers of conversations in languages he didn't know, but he felt their meaning, the emotions behind the words: curiosity, suspicion, doubt. He paused by a window, staring out at the alien city sprawling below, towering structures twisted like living trees, glowing with a soft inner light. He had always known that humans were small, fragile, and often foolish. Yet here he was in a city ruled by beings capable of shaping worlds, and somehow he had been declared the Queen's husband. His mind raced. Why me? Why would she choose me? He felt like an imposter. Every instinct in him whispered that he didn't belong here, that he wasn't strong enough, wise enough, or brave enough to face the scrutiny of an entire alien civilization. Footsteps approached, soft but unmistakable. The Queen appeared beside him, her presence calming, grounding him. "You are thinking too much," she said gently. Her voice, low and melodic, cut through the storm of his doubts. I don't understand," John admitted, his voice breaking slightly. "Why me? I'm just a human. I'm weak, small, nothing compared to you, or to them." His hands clenched at his sides, shaking. "I don't belong in this world." She reached for his hand, taking it in hers. Her touch was firm but comforting. "You belong because you see me as I am," she said softly. "Not as a queen, not as a creature of power, but as someone who is real. You accept me fully. That is something none of them can claim." John swallowed hard, tears pricking his eyes. He had never felt so seen. In all his life, no one had looked at him with the kind of understanding she had. No one had believed in him like that. Yet the doubt still lingered. Could love really be enough to face a world that would never understand him? Could a human heart stand against centuries of prejudice, suspicion, and alien traditions? "I don't know if I can," he whispered. "You can," she said firmly, lifting his chin so that he met her gaze. "You don't have to be like them. You don't have to wield power like them. Your strength is different. Your courage is different, and it is enough." John closed his eyes, drawing a shaky breath. Her words warmed him, but fear still clung to him like a shadow. He remembered the faces in the hall, some curious, some skeptical, some openly mocking. He remembered the deep, echoing voice of the creature who had doubted him, who had openly questioned his worth. Could he face that again and again? She leaned closer, pressing her forehead against his. "The world will judge you. That is its nature. But you are not alone. I am with you always." Her promise wrapped around him like a shield. For the first time, John allowed himself to imagine what life might be like here. Not perfect, not easy, but possible. He could learn. He could grow. And maybe, just maybe, he could earn the respect of a world that had never believed a human could matter. As he opened his eyes, he saw her smile, gentle and unwavering. It was a smile that carried the weight of stars and centuries, and yet it was meant for him alone. In that moment, John realized something vital. He didn't need to be perfect. He didn't need to be strong in the way they were. He needed only to stand beside her, to believe in her, and to face the challenges with his heart open. The palace corridor seemed less intimidating now. The voices outside were still uncertain, but John felt a spark of courage growing inside him. It was fragile, tentative, but it was real, and in that fragile spark, he found hope. A hope that he could survive this world, earn his place, and prove that even a human could stand as the equal of an alien queen. He squeezed her hand gently. "I'll try," he said softly. "That is all I ask," she replied. And with that, they walked forward together, ready to face whatever the universe had in store. The council hall was massive, even larger than the throne room. Towering pillars carved from shimmering crystal lined the walls, catching the light in ways that made John's head spin. Dozens of alien leaders had gathered, each representing a different species, a different world, a different way of life. They looked down at him, their expressions a mix of curiosity, disbelief, and quiet disdain. John's hands were clenched at his sides. He had learned to bow politely, to use the appropriate tones of respect, but he knew none of it mattered. They weren't here to welcome him. They were here to test him. to see if the human who dared to call himself the Queen's husband had any worth at all. A towering four-armed creature stepped forward. Its eyes glowed a piercing green as it spoke in a voice like grinding stone. "You are human," it said. "You claim to be her husband. Tell us why we should accept this. Why should we allow a being so small, so fragile, so limited in understanding to stand beside the Queen?" The words hit John like a physical blow. He felt the eyes of dozens of creatures drilling into him, each silently asking the same question. "What makes you worthy?" He looked at the Queen, who stood silently beside him, her gaze steady and unwavering. She didn't speak, but her presence gave him a strange, quiet strength. He took a deep breath. "I am human," he began, voice trembling at first, "and I am not strong in the ways you are. I cannot crush planets, I cannot command armies, I cannot live for centuries. But I can love. I can be loyal. I can stand with her even when the world doubts me. And that is why I am here." A ripple of murmurs ran through the council. Some heads tilted, some eyes widened, and a few creatures whispered among themselves. The hall was tense, every sound amplified by the sheer expectation in the air. Another council member, a creature with scales like molten metal, leaned forward. "Love?" it hissed. "Do you think that is enough? Do you think that human emotion can stand against the burdens of a queen, against the weight of leadership, against threats that would destroy worlds?" John's chest tightened. He felt the old fear creeping back, the feeling that he didn't belong. For a moment he imagined turning away, leaving the hall, letting the Queen find someone worthy of her, a creature of power, a being with centuries of experience. But then he felt her hand on his shoulder, firm and grounding. He remembered her smile, her unwavering trust. "I do not have the strength of 1,000 soldiers," John said, louder this time. "I do not have the wisdom of 100 lifetimes, but I have the courage to stand by her side. I have the courage to learn, to fight, to face what others cannot, and I will, because she is worth it." A hush fell over the hall. The council members exchanged long, uncertain glances. The tension was so thick that John could feel it pressing against his chest. For a long moment it seemed as if nothing would happen. Then slowly a few creatures inclined their heads. Others whispered quietly, as if acknowledging that maybe this human was different. The Queen smiled, her eyes glowing softly. "You see," she said, voice gentle but carrying through the hall, "true strength is not measured by size, speed, or longevity. True strength is measured by heart, by courage, and by loyalty. He possesses all of these, and that is why he stands with me." John felt a warmth spread through his chest. The doubt, the fear, the feeling of being insignificant, it all began to fade. For the first time he realized that perhaps he could belong here. Perhaps a human, small and fragile, could stand among gods and legends and still be respected. The council remained tense, but the hostility had softened. Eyes that had once burned with judgment now held curiosity. And in that moment John understood something vital. Being human was not a weakness here. It was a different kind of strength, one they had never expected, but one they could not ignore. He looked at the Queen, and she gave him a small nod. He knew then that whatever challenges lay ahead, he would face them. Not as a creature of power, not as a warrior or a sage, but as a human, with heart, courage, and love that could stand against anything. And for the first time, John believed that perhaps, just perhaps, he could rise to meet the impossible. Days turned into weeks, and John realized that being the Queen's husband meant more than standing beside her. It meant understanding her world, learning its rules, and earning respect from creatures who had never believed a human could matter. Each day was a challenge. Every conversation, every decision, every action felt like a test of his worth. The Queen guided him patiently, teaching him about their languages, their customs, their history. She showed him how to read the subtle cues in the council members' voices, how to understand the weight of words, and how even the smallest gesture could build trust or destroy it. John struggled. He made mistakes. More than once he said the wrong thing, misread a signal, or accidentally offended someone. The embarrassment burned him, but the Queen never scolded him. She simply held his hand, smiled, and reminded him, "You are learning. That is what matters." One day a dispute erupted among two powerful factions in the council. The argument was heated, voices rising, gestures sharp and threatening. The situation was tense enough to risk a violent outbreak. John could feel the fear and distrust radiating from everyone in the room. The Queen gave him a look, and without thinking, he stepped forward. He spoke slowly, carefully choosing his words. "I know you have fought for centuries over this," he said, "but all of you want the same thing: safety for your people. You want to protect your homes. You want your lives to matter. We may be different, but we share the same hopes. Can we not find a way to work together?" There was a long silence. Some council members stared at him with disbelief, as if daring him to fail. Others exchanged uncertain glances, trying to gauge whether a human could truly understand their concerns. And then one by one they began to listen. He asked questions, suggested compromises, and encouraged them to see the perspectives of their rivals. Slowly, tension melted into discussion. By the end of the meeting, an agreement had been reached, a small but meaningful step toward peace. John left the hall exhausted, but a quiet pride filled him. He had done it. Not through power, not through intimidation, not through violence, but through understanding, empathy, and patience. He had used the very thing the aliens had doubted humans could have: heart. Over the following weeks, more creatures began to approach him, seeking advice, guidance, or simply a word of kindness. He found himself mediating disputes, helping with negotiations, and learning about cultures that had lasted for thousands of years. Every success, no matter how small, strengthened him and built the quiet respect of those who had once looked down on him. The Queen watched him closely through all of this, her expression calm but proud. One evening, as they walked through the palace gardens under alien stars, she said softly, "You have changed more than you realize. The council listens because you care. They respect you because you are willing to stand. Even when they doubt you, that is power they will never forget." John smiled, a mixture of relief and disbelief. "I never thought a human could matter here," he admitted. "I always thought we were small, weak, unimportant." "You are human," she said, looking at him with infinite patience. "And that is exactly why you matter. You remind everyone that courage, loyalty, and love are not limited to the strong or the long-lived. They are universal. They are human." For the first time, John felt a deep sense of belonging. He wasn't just a visitor, a guest, or an outsider. He was part of something bigger than himself. He was making a difference not through weapons or power, but through humanity. And in doing so, he realized the truth. Even a human could stand as an equal among gods, queens, and legends. And the creatures of the galaxy were beginning to understand that. The day of the grand celebration arrived. The palace was alive with music, light, and the hum of thousands of beings gathered from across the galaxy. Lanterns floated like glowing stars, shimmering in colors John had never imagined. Creatures of every shape, size, and form moved through the halls, some dancing, some conversing, some simply observing. John stood beside the Queen, his heart pounding. This was the moment he had feared and hoped for in equal measure. The same council members who had doubted him, who had questioned his worth, were here watching. He could feel their eyes weighing him, measuring him, silently asking, "Is he worthy? Can a human truly stand beside the Queen?" The Queen lifted her hand and the music quieted. Every eye turned toward her. She looked at John with warmth and pride, then addressed the hall in a voice that carried effortlessly through the vast space. "Friends, allies, and creatures of every world," she began. "Today is not just a celebration. Today is a declaration. This human, John, is my husband." The hall fell silent, not with shock this time, but with awe. John's chest tightened. He glanced at the Queen, whose gaze gave him strength. "He has proven himself," she continued, "not by power, not by force but by courage, loyalty, and heart. He has faced doubt, danger, and disbelief, and yet he stands here unbroken. Respect him as I do." The silence stretched. John could feel the weight of it, the attention of thousands of beings settling on him like a tide. Then slowly creatures began to bow, nod, and whisper words of acknowledgement. Some still stared in disbelief, but there was no more mockery. There was recognition. And as the Queen squeezed his hand, John felt a rush of emotion that brought tears to his eyes. Over the course of the celebration, creatures approached him, some cautiously, some boldly, to offer greetings, questions, and congratulations. John listened, smiled, and spoke, realizing that he was no longer an outsider. He was part of this world, a bridge between humans and aliens. He was proving day by day that humanity had value even among gods and legends. Later, in the quiet of the palace gardens, the Queen pulled him close. The alien stars above shimmered like molten diamonds. "You did it," she said softly, her voice warm against his ear. "They respect you. They understand that being human does not mean being weak. You have shown them our truth, that courage, love, and loyalty transcend species, worlds, and power." John exhaled deeply, feeling a release of tension he hadn't realized he was carrying. "I never imagined I could do this," he admitted. "I never imagined a human could be accepted here, could stand beside you like this." "You are more than you know," she replied. "You have shown that the human spirit is strong, that even a single heart can influence the galaxy. They may not all understand it yet, but they will remember it. They will remember you." John's eyes scanned the crowd in the gardens, creatures dancing, talking, and celebrating together. For the first time he felt fully seen, fully accepted. He realized that the fear he had carried, the fear of being too small, too weak, too human, was gone. Replaced not with pride but with understanding, being human was not a limitation. It was a strength in its own way, a gift that the universe had underestimated. He looked at the Queen and she smiled, a quiet, knowing smile. "You belong," she said simply, "and together we can face whatever comes next." John nodded, feeling a surge of determination. He knew challenges lay ahead, prejudices, dangers, and trials that might test him again. But now he had proof that humanity could stand among stars, proof that love and courage could reshape worlds. And in that moment, beneath alien skies and among creatures who had once doubted him, John felt a sense of belonging deeper than anything he had ever known. He was no longer just a human. He was a husband, a bridge, a force of hope, and he knew without a doubt that he would never falter again. The celebration had faded into the quiet of night. Lanterns floated gently through the palace gardens, casting soft golden light on shimmering pools and twisting alien flora. Creatures moved quietly, some still laughing softly, others simply gazing at the stars above. The hall was empty now except for John and the Queen. John stood at her side, feeling a mix of exhaustion, relief, and awe. He had faced doubt, fear, and impossible expectations, and somehow he had survived them all. He had proven himself not through strength or power, but through the human heart, his courage, his loyalty, and his love. He looked at the Queen, her presence radiant even in the soft glow of the lanterns. "I still can't believe it," he said quietly. "All of this, and they accepted me. They actually see me." She reached for his hand, and her touch grounded him as it had so many times before. "They see what I have always known," she said softly. "You are human. You are fragile in ways that seem small, yet you have a courage they cannot measure. You have a heart that stands against doubt, that persists when others fail, and that is why you matter." John swallowed hard, feeling tears prick his eyes. For so long he had thought of himself as insignificant, a human with limits, fears, and flaws. And yet here he was, standing among beings who could crush planets with a thought, accepted, respected, and even admired. He realized then that being human was not a weakness. It was a unique kind of strength, a power that even the most magnificent beings could not replicate. "I never imagined that I could belong here," he admitted, voice trembling. "I thought my life was too small, too ordinary, but now I see that being human doesn't mean being weak, it means being brave in ways they can't even understand. The Queen smiled, her eyes shining with a mixture of pride and love. It is the human heart that can change worlds, she said. You have shown them that. And more importantly, you have shown yourself that. You belong here, John, and you always will. He felt a warmth spread through him, a peace he had never known. The weight of doubt, fear, and uncertainty fell away, replaced by clarity and purpose. He was not alone. He was not powerless. He was loved, trusted, and accepted, and that made him stronger than he had ever been. He looked out at the alien sky, at stars that seemed impossibly close, as if the universe itself were watching. For the first time he understood what it meant to matter. To matter not for what one could destroy, not for what one could command, but simply for who one was. A human, a husband, a bridge between worlds. The Queen drew him close, resting her forehead against his. Do you understand now? She whispered. The silence that fell the first day? It was not fear alone. It was realization. Every creature in this hall, every being who doubted saw something they had never imagined, a human capable of courage, love, and hope beyond measure. John closed his eyes, letting her words sink in. I understand, he said finally, voice steady. I understand that being human is enough, that even someone like me can stand beside a queen, face the impossible, and make a difference. She smiled, pressing her lips to his forehead gently. And together, she said, we will face whatever comes next. Together nothing can break us. John nodded, feeling a deep, unshakable certainty settle within him. He had crossed worlds, faced doubt, and proven that even a human could be extraordinary. And now, standing beside the Queen, he knew that his journey was only beginning, but he would never falter again. The alien stars above shimmered like molten gold, and in their light, John saw not fear, not doubt, but possibility. Humanity had endured, had struggled, and had triumphed, not through weapons or technology, but through the quiet, unyielding strength of heart. And in that moment, John realized the truth he had carried with him all along. A human could change the galaxy. He was her husband. He belonged, and nothing would ever make him doubt it again.